Hey, what up, guys? It's me again, and welcome to the This Is My Moment podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Mitchell, and here on This Is My Moment, we love having fun, we love meeting new people, and we love making you smile. Let's go get it.
There ain't no stopping it, this is my moment. Join the movement, we bringing people together, bringing positivity, making changes for the better. Cause it's all about
Today, I got a guy on the other line that I'm going to try not to have therapy with. It's probably going to be a little difficult for me because you know how I get to talking. But if it happens, excuse us. We're going to enjoy this one. Introduce yourself to the family.
Well, my name is Doug Lawrence, and I'm a retired Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer, having served just about 25 years. For sake of argument, we'll call it 25 years. As a result of my service and a lot of the trauma and that I was exposed to or experienced, I ended up with post-traumatic stress as a result of that. So I was dealing with that, and then along came February of 2021, and I lost my wife to cancer. And so I've been dealing with the grief of that loss and trying to figure out what the heck is normal from that day forward, and dealing with that. And at the same time, I'm also in as well as looking after myself and going through the grief process, I'm also trying to help as many others as I possibly can deal with post-traumatic stress and with grief. So that's a little bit probably longer version of Who's Doug, but
Yeah, well, you know what? Don't worry about it. We're going to get into that. And before I get into the questions, sorry to hear about your wife. We'll just start there, man. How long were you married?
it would have been 43 years.
That's a good run, brother. Goodness gracious. That is a blessing. So sorry to hear that, but I hope those 43 years stick with you like that, man, because I know it's tough. So from us to you, we'll offer our condolences. Let me ask you this, man. I'm going to talk to the PTSD side before I talk to the spouse side. So I'm a retired military member, man, and I'm diagnosed with post traumatic stress disorder, man. And for me, it's very therapeutic to talk about it. Like I don't hold it close because it only festers when I do. How do you deal with your PTSD, man?
I'm kind of similar to you in that I need that venue to be able to talk about post-traumatic stress, but how it's impacting me and who I was as I was going through that process. Like for me, my crutch became a bottle of whiskey. I would go to, a traumatic event or situation, and I would come back to my place of where I was living. I would come back to my trailer, and I would walk through the door, go to the cabinet where I kept my liquor, and I'd haul out a bottle, throw the cap away, and I'd drink until there was no more. And I thought at the time that was the answer to everything, was if you just drink, it'll go away. Well, no, it doesn't. So one of the things that I've learned is that, and I wish I could have done this back when I was full blown PTS, was to actually have somebody that I could talk to.
I'll tell you what, man. I didn't turn to liquor when I came home, and I'll just tell you a little bit about my story. I was in Afghanistan for 10 months, and then when I came back from all of the stuff that I saw, all the stuff that I've been through, the military had deployed my wife, so I didn't get a chance to see my wife. So I didn't have that support system. And anybody, and this is just me, and I can't speak for everyone, but I am a huge advocate of a support system when it comes to that, to the PTSD, man, because without that, it made me a horrible person. Like in all honesty, I didn't know who I was. I didn't recognize myself for a long time. And it's very difficult to be the best version of yourself if you don't understand how to become that person again. Before the trauma, who was Doug? Before the trauma, who were you?
I was before the trauma, I was a fun-loving individual. I valued my small circle of friends. I was, very sociable. It was, those were all the things that I was, and became the sort of person that people would be drawn to.
Yeah. Okay. During that trauma, so you got before Doug, personable, fun, that guy. During that time, who was Doug?
During the
Yeah, doing yeah, when you was coming home, man, and you was drinking and you was coping with it that way. Who were you then?
I was like a ship without a captain.
Mm.
You know, I I didn't have the support structure because the police force didn't, it was it was probably too early for them to sort of wrap their heads around it, if that's an excuse, but they just, it was, well, you'll have to deal with it. And, kind of the old, what was the term we used to use, the suck it up, buttercup,
Yeah, yeah,
get 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 back in the saddle and keep going. And
yeah,
um so you would turn, sometimes I would turn to, at that particular time point, my wife, and unbeknownst to me, how I turned was not the most, it wasn't nice Doug, it was bad Doug that she
yeah,
would end up experiencing. And
yeah,
I found out quite a while afterwards that both her and my two children had actually contemplated leaving me, because I was that mean and ugly of an individual that they said, life's too short. We don't have to put up with this.
yeah. It's horrible. And before I ask you the next question, so we did the before, the during. I'm gonna ask you after, but I'll tell you what, man. It is very difficult. It was very difficult for me to realize the kind of person that I was turning into, right? And the effect that that had on the kids, the effect that that had on the wife, the effect that had on my parents and my siblings. You know what I mean? Like it was a person where they were so used to you being a certain kind of way, right? And then with all this stuff going on, you knew that you were kind of changing, or but you didn't know how to really get it together. And that was who I was, man. Like I was, man, I hated to look at myself in the mirror, Doug, in all honesty, man. And it took years for me to be like, you know what, I can't do that. And then reach out to the medical to the medical field, man, and start to go to therapy and start to kind of evolve back into a super better version of myself, because who I was horrible. So I got you on that. So now let me ask you the last part of this question. The before Doug, fun loving. The middle Doug, almost lost his family. How are you now, man? What's this version of Doug? How's that looking?
I think a large part of it is it's probably the best that I've been. And it's because not only am I managing my own stuff, my own issues, but I'm
Yeah,
also helping others deal with theirs, and being able to give back and to be of service to others has become sort of my objective or my goal,
yeah.
going forward.
That's what's up, man. I enjoy that. And it actually segues to my next question. And correct me if I'm wrong. I read something. It's called Talent C People Services. Is that correct, or did I miss it? What is that exactly?
So that is my own company that I started in 2009, 2010. And it's a company that is focused solely on mentoring. So, kind of, if you look at it from all things mentoring, so
Yeah,
it can be implementing mentoring in a workplace. And what I do now is I implement mentoring, but I also implement a piece of a support structure for mental health as part of that mentoring implementation. So that it's all things mentoring. Like I offer termination versus mentoring. So if you're going to terminate an employee, let
yeah.
me work with them for 5 1-hour sessions, and we'll do a behavior change, and you'll get your good employee, productive employee back, and go
Mm.
through that. So there's a number of different things that that I can do for organizations and for people.
Yeah.
I'm a volunteer mentor with the Sir Richard Branson entrepreneur program in the Caribbean. I'm working with American corporate partners in the US to help service people transition from service to civilian life. So there's a number of different, things, and that's what Talent C is all about.
How was that going? Like, and just like I said, man, I'm a retired guy. I'm a military guy, man, and the mindset that I had then into that transition is different. I just talked about it the other day, man. It's totally different. It's like night and day, man. Some of the differences that I were accustomed to for those 20 plus years, the moment I came into civilian world, man, that was out the window. How do you mentor those military people that's transitioning into civilian life, man? What are some tips that you given them?
The big thing that is to develop a trusting relationship is the first thing, and it's also for me to be able to listen and hear and sort of help them tell their story, because we need to understand the story first
Yeah.
before we can, it's not a one size fits all. It's my approach is a very customized approach, because I want to make sure that whatever we put into practice is something that's going to help you and not 27 other people who don't really know where they're going. But and I'm the best way to look is I'm kind of a guide. I'm somebody that will ask some questions and what would happen if we were to do A, B, or C, and get you to start to think your way through trying to figure out do problem solving, critical thinking, and stuff like that. So I do a lot of that with people to help them to get through going through that. But one of the big things is to make sure that you're plugged into the right support people. So if you experienced some trauma, to make sure that you're connected with a counselor and with a psychologist and all of those things.
Yeah.
I don't do that stuff, and nor should I. I'm not a trained psychologist or psychiatrist, but
Yeah.
I want to make sure that you are getting the right resources.
Right, and the resources, man. The resources are huge, and for me, I was trying to do without those resources because I was always trying to find a trigger. You know, it was always it was always me trying to find the reason why I was. And you know what I realized? I never knew what my trigger was. I still to this day don't understand what the trigger is. Some days I just have great days. Some days I'm a little bit less, but I understand how to get out of it now. But when you come across, or have you came across people where you're speaking with them, and they don't know what the trigger is? How do you help people and mentor people to understanding where they are and how to mitigate the risk of having those triggers? Do you do that?
I will, and part of it is I have my own lived experience, right? And I still periodically have to manage various triggers that bring back, like, for example, driving by the hospital where my wife passed away. That'll trigger for me huge emotions. I had to go there here a couple of weeks ago to pick a binder up, and I was on the same ward that she was on before she passed, and I had to really work hard at maintaining my composure so that, what I've found, I'll give you an example, is I was working with, very first meeting, working with a young entrepreneur who was starting their own business. And I said, full disclosure, I just want to let you know that I've gone through, post-traumatic stress. I've experienced some mental health challenges and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, the person turned and looked me right in the face, and she said, I have to share my story now. And she had been diagnosed with 3 or 4 different mental health conditions, and it was something we needed to be aware of, because it would be difficult to help her shape what her business was going to look like if she's battling, you know,
Yeah.
battling mental health issues.
You know what? You brought up a good point, and I don't know if this even makes sense, but I'm gonna just say it. When I first realized and got diagnosed with my post traumatic stress, you know what else came with that? Anxiety, depression, all of these things, and I don't know if that's like common or if you see it, but what I started to realize was that it's not one thing. It's not just this. It may be this in combination with this and that. Have you seen that through the people that you're talking to? That it's not just PTSD. It may be anxiety. It may be depression. It may be some kind of other disorder that's accompanying the post traumatic stress. Have you seen that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's, I don't want to say it's common, but it does take place. It does happen. And
Yeah.
it can lead to, people people slowly sliding towards the darker side,
Yeah.
and then starting to, to have uh dark thoughts. And that's when you want to be able to, number one, it's a trigger, you want to recognize it, and you need to, that's when you need to get, help to be able to deal with those.
Yeah. Okay. That's what's up. And I'm glad it's not just me. Because I'd had to go back. What's the most rewarding part about starting your mentoring business, man? What's the most rewarding part?
I would have to say the most rewarding part for me is the opportunity to help others
Mm.
deal to deal with, their post-traumatic stress, to deal with grief, whichever path you want to talk about. But it's to be able to give back, to be able to help people deal with those things. And know, my favorite mantra is, you are not alone, is
Yeah.
one statement. The other statement is, I'll never leave you on an island by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me to be able to say that and to do that, that's really important. And and that's kind of that's what is so rewarding to me. And I've got, like, I can think of the young married couple who invited me to their wedding, and I
Mm.
had been doing some mentoring with one or both of them. And to have them come up at the wedding reception, where they were getting ready to go dancing and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
coming right up to me and telling me that we couldn't imagine having our wedding without you being here.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That says a lot about you. That is that is personally impactful to those people. So you made a direct line past the business aspect. That is life altering stuff. When someone introduces you into their family to where they couldn't have saw themselves doing something without you, man, that's to me that's huge. That's direct impact. I have one question, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit off script because I want to know something. What was one of the biggest misconceptions you had when you started your business, man? The biggest misconception.
Yeah, the biggest misconception was that I was going to make all kinds of money. And then I basically, and what I realized was, it's not about the money. It's about, being of service. And somebody would come to me and say, I really, really need to spend some time with you. I need you to be my mentor, but I can't afford you, because there's just no way I can afford you. And what I've already always told people is, if money is what's preventing us from spending time together and building a mentoring relationship, let's take that off the table, and let's just
Mhm.
park that, and we can have that conversation sometime. I've logged, oh gosh, hundreds and hundreds of hours that are pro bono, because people didn't have the money to be able to pay for my service.
Yeah.
So you looked past the money. You looked at the need of the person before the financial gain of yourself. I tell you what, in today's society, man, that to me is a rare trait because nowadays, man, nowadays it's very hard to find someone genuine enough to put other people before their bank account. It's rough. I want to ask you this: when your wife passed, who mentors the mentor? Who are you going to? What are you doing to this? And you're out there and you're mentoring these other people, man, while you're still holding this to yourself. Who is giving you the mentoring you need to be successful so you can help us?
I have a small group of trusted advisors, mentors that I go to certainly about things that are business related and some to some small extent, some that are very much relationship and sort of the mentoring of, okay, Doug, how are things going for you today, sort of thing, and what can I do to, or what are some of the things that I could do to help you continue on your own personal journey. And what I've been blessed in that I've found a small group of individuals that they know what to do. Some of them have experienced grief, but more importantly, they know that there are times when they need to talk and there's times when they need to just listen and hear.
Man, and that is a key that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people want to fix. You tell them something, they go right into fix it mode. And sometimes I don't need you to fix it. I just need to say it. Do you think that having people that understand what's needed for you at those particular times is huge in you moving forward to helping others? Because if you didn't have that circle, do you think you would still be as effective as you are mentoring other people?
No, because I draw on the others.
Mm.
I draw on them. And sometimes it's as simple as, I this is what I'm dealing with, and this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm experiencing. Do you have some words of wisdom, some guidance? Have you experienced this before? If so, what did you do? So, kind of going through that sort of all those things to be able to hopefully. I have one person that I've met with a couple times now, and has she has helped me get through two or three business related things, and
Yeah.
there was some personal stuff that was kind of woven into it as well, but
Yeah.
she's helped me figure it out so that when I went to deal with it, it was there was no trauma, it was anticlimactic, it was,
Yeah.
I just knew what to say and do and how to say it and how to do it, and it ended up that it wasn't an issue.
That's good, man. That's a blessing, man. That's a blessing because with all these things, and I'm gonna ask you a couple more things, and then we're gonna get into a different part of the show. Before your wife passed, you were dealing with the PTSD, right? I got you. Let me ask you this, and this is gonna be a heavy question, man. How did the passing of your wife and still working through that PTSD, man? How did you mentally make it through that?
Yeah. So if I were to prioritize where my energies were best spent, they were spent on the dealing with the grief side of things first. And
Yeah.
then what pieces of me that were left would focus on the post-traumatic stress. And I would say that I've learned to manage my PTS and not let it manage me.
Uh,
And so by doing that, I have freed up emotionally, I've freed up a part of me that can stay focused on the grief part of still dealing with it. And it was 2021. So it's 2 years going on 3 years now. And it's getting a bit better, but it's a long ways from where I could say, okay, I'm good, I can move on and everything else. I'm miles away from that.
And you know what, man? And I can't even imagine you being close. I'm gonna tell you why, man. You talk about 43. How old are you, Mr. Doug? How old are you?
60, no, skill testing question, 68.
So you telling me out of 68 years, so you, at the time, so it was 66. So 43 of your 66, you with your, it's no way that you'll be over in 2 years. And you know what? At the end of the day, take as long as you want, man, because this is you. This is your life. This is how. This is the person that you saw the rest of your life with, man. And you know what? If it takes you forever, man, it takes you forever. But I'm a strong believer in understanding it and understanding where you are, and I think you can grow from that, man. But you got it on track. So again, man, condolences on from us here at This Is My Moment, man. In 43 years, you got, man, that's a blessing. I can't even imagine that. And I'm looking at 24 with my wife, and I'm like, man, that seemed like a long time. But just imagine that and almost double that. I'm like, whoa, that's a solid run, man. And God bless you, and I wish you the very best. Now let me ask you this: with all that negative stuff, man, what are you most proud of? What is your proudest moment with having the talency, helping these people and mentoring these people, man? What's been the proudest moment for you?
It would be how my children, my son and my daughter,
Mm.
both both dealt with. So let me maybe back it up a bit. So we, at the time it was COVID, we weren't allowed to visit when Deborah was in the hospital. And towards the end, I was allowed to be there. At first, I wasn't even allowed to be in the hospital. And so anyhow, long story short, we couldn't have a funeral or a celebration of life because there was restrictions on how large the groups and all that stuff. And so eventually it opened up so that I think it was in August that we were allowed to find a facility and have a celebration of life. And I got to see my two children become that strong individual to be able to be supportive of myself, but to be supportive of the rest of the family as well. And for me, seeing that was not only a reflection on me, but more so a reflection on their mom, on Deborah, and what she had instilled in them as, sort of their behaviors as they were growing up. And so it's not something that I would take credit for by any stretch, because it was something that she had done. And it was, it was that she set such a high bar for them, and they stepped to the plate and did that. So for me, that would be it.
That's it right there, brother. Let me ask you a question, and I hope I didn't get it wrong. Are you an author also?
Yes, I am.
How many books you got?
I have two that have been published and a third one that were in the works. I'm doing some more editing and stuff to the manuscript, and then we should be in a good place.
How did that come about, man? How did you start writing this stuff down, man, and getting it out to the crowd?
The first book was a accumulation of some blog articles that I had written on mentoring. And it was actually one of my colleagues that I went through the police training with, that he had written a book his book was called Notes from Papa, and it was inspirational messages to his children, and he would send them these messages every day. And so he said to me, you've got all this content, all this stuff you've done on mentoring, you need to write a book. And so, long story short, we wrote The Gift of Mentoring, and it was published in 2014. And then along came another group of people who said, you need to write a book about mentoring and mental health. And, because you're the most natural person that could do that. So
Yeah.
I ended up, I wrote the book, You Are Not Alone, which is available on Amazon, but it ended up being an Amazon #1 bestseller, North America and the UK, and the recipient of the Bronze Global Book Award as well. And so and as a result of all of that, it kind of propelled me into the international best-selling authors status, if you want to call it that. So, yeah, and so I'm right now the third book is being written, and it's right now the title that we've chosen is The Silent Pandemic, and it talks a lot about cancer and grief and a whole bunch of things and mental health and how cancer is a leading cause of death globally, and yet we don't consider it to be worthy of being a pandemic.
That's heavy. Man, well, congratulations on your books too, man. I'm an inspiring author, man, and to hear that you're doing that well and you're working on another one, that's exciting, man. So another shout out, man, and just listening to you and looking at my notes and hearing everything, man, you've came a long way, brother, and it looks good on you.
Thank you.
So yeah, man. So I talked to you earlier. We do a little bit different on the show. We talked. It was a heavy conversation, but I don't want to end heavy. I want to end light and fun. So these next questions, Doug, we're gonna have a little bit of fun. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So the game is called Pick One. You have one sentence to tell someone something. I'm finna tell you. Here's your topic. You have one sentence to tell someone about being effectively mentored. What are you telling them?
Be receptive to and open to the person that you're working with.
Okay. All the books that you've written, you only get to keep one. Which one are you keeping?
You Are Not Alone.
Okay. I give you the quote. This is my moment. First thing comes to your mind.
Our time together today.
That's it. Mr. Doug, we're done.
Thank you so much.
Oh man, I thoroughly enjoyed you. I love talking about my story. I love hearing about other people's stories because the symptom or the PTSD in itself is the same, but the way that people react, the way that people deal with it, and the help that people get is always different, man. And hearing it from your viewpoint, man, it was a blessing to me, man, and I really thank you. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to close the show, and then I'm going to come right back to you, okay?
Alrighty. Thank you again.
Oh, man, you're extremely welcome. Thank you for being here. Hey, guys, Mr. Doug said it. It's okay to get help and understand that you're never on an island. Don't ever think that you have to be by yourself. It's okay. And then at the end of the day, go get it!
Join the movement, we bringing people together, bringing positivity, making changes for the better. Cause it's all about growth, all about success. We wanna see you rise, wanna see you at your best.